Okay, so today we're going to be talking about divisibility rules. So we're going to be looking at some vocabulary for divisibility rules. So I want you to write the first word, which are factors. Write that word. The definition of factors is the numbers in a multiplication problem are called factors. Look at the problem in the example. It says 4 times 3 equals 12. 4 and 3 are factors of 12. As you can multiply 4 and 3 to get 12. So 4 times 3 are factors of 12. Write that down quickly. So moving on in just a second.
Could we write it in pen?
Yes.
Oh, yeah, we can.
Okay, next word. Divisibility. So when you're talking about divisibility rules, divisible just means a number that can be divided into another number without a remainder. So you get a remainder of 0. If a number is divisible by another number, it means you can divide it without a remainder. Now in the example I put 24 divided by 3 is 8. Because 8 times 3 is 24, so I get a 0 remainder. So I would say 24 is divisible by 3. Okay, 24 is divisible by 3. Okay, write it down quickly. And before anybody asks, yes, you've got to start studying these vocabulary words because they will be part of the text. Okay, the next word is even number. The next word is even number. Now, an even number are whole numbers whose ones digit is a 0, 2, 4, 6, or 8. If a number ends with 0, 2, 4, 6, or 8, it is called an even number. Okay? The only digit that matters to see if a number is even or not is the ones digit. It's this digit right here. It's the ones digit. If it ends with a 0, it's even. So 20 is an even number. 36 ends with a 6, so it's an even number. 54 ends with a 4, so it's an even number. So any number that ends with 0, 2, 4, 6, 8, you'd say 2, 4, 6, 8, 0. Right? Counting by 2s, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20, right? Any number that ends with 0, 2, 4, 6, or 8 is even. Next word is odd number. Now the definition of odd number is anybody in Mr. Dixon's. No, that's not what it is. They're not odd. No. Whole numbers whose ones digit is a 1, 3, 5, 7, or 9. So if it ends with a 1, if it ends with a 3, if it ends with a 5, if it ends with a 7, or a 9, it is called an odd number. So yes, all numbers are either odd or even. 1 is odd, 2 is even, 3 is odd, 4 is even, 5 is odd, 6 is even. Notice it goes back and forth. So odd numbers are whole numbers whose ones digit is a 1, 3, 5, 7, or 9. So the examples are 41. 41 ends with a 1, so it's odd. 23 ends with a 3, so it's odd. 35 ends with a 5, so it is odd. Okay? That's the last word. But we're not done with our notes yet. When you're finished with that last word, I would like you to put your pens and pencils down, and I'd like to give you your attention. Turn your chairs and face the board right here. Okay, so turn your chairs and face the board up here.
Okay. Okay. Okay.
You got it. Still waiting on a couple. Edward, can you please stop playing with whatever you're playing with and focus it? Okay. All eyes are here. If you're not done, I'll go back in just a moment. When you're talking about divisibility, guys, let's say I give you a number like 432. Okay, 432. And I want to know, can I take this number and can I divide it by 9? Can I take this number and divide it by 4? Can I take this number and divide it by 3? Now, there's two ways to figure that out. The first way is I could take my big number and I could actually do what we would call the algorithm. Just do the division to see if I get a remainder. So will 9 go into 43? Well, yes, it will. So 9 will go into 43 not 5 times, because 9 times 5 is 45. It would have to be 4 times, which is 36. So then I would subtract. I would borrow, make that a 13, so that's 7. I would bring down the 2. And 9 would go into 72 8 times, because 8 times 9 is 72. And I get a 0 remainder. So I now know that 432 is divisible by 9. Say that. And if 432 is divisible by 9, what else is it also divisible by?
3? 4.
48, right? Because 48 times 9, so everybody watch this. 48 times 9 equals 432. So the factors for 432, 2 of them are 48 and 9. Now we know from fact families, right, that I can rewrite this number sentence and I could take it as 432 divided by 9 would equal what? 48. I also know that 432 divided by 48 would equal what? 9. Okay, so now let's go back to our original number, and let's look at 432 and 4. I want to know, can I take 4 times something to equal 432? Now, the process of dividing can be a long process, right? So I'm going to ask myself, well, if I learn a couple rules, then I know whether I can divide a number by another number. Okay? And I will say to you that 432 is divisible by 4. I'm telling you that. Because I know the rules for divisibility in the number 4. So without doing any work, I know that this number is divisible by 2. I know this number is divisible by 3. I know it's divisible by 9. I know it's divisible by 6. I know it's divisible by 4 without doing anything. Now, let's see. Let's check. I said it was divisible by 4, so let's check. That's 1, that's 4, that's 0 left over, that's a 3, so that's a 0. Then that's a 2, that's 8, that's 32, that's 0 left over. So 108 times 4, and I was correct. It's divisible by 4. Let's look at a different one.
Can we do something simple?
I'm telling you that that one's divisible by 4 also.
It is.
Because the 8?
No, I know what. Can I do the 4?
Now, So we are going to learn today, we're going to learn some divisibility rules. We are going to learn whether one number can be divided into another number without a remainder. So draw a line on your notes. Here is the first rule. We're going to learn the rule for the number 2. If I want to know, is a number divisible by 2? Can I take a number and divide it by 2 without a remainder? Yes, you're writing this exact same thing in your notes, just like you see it. First of all, the rule for 2 is you're going to look at the ones digit. Only digit that matters when you're talking about the rules for 2. If the ones digit is a 0, 2, 4, 6, or 8, it is divisible by 2. Now you'll notice here it says all even numbers are divisible by 2. Every even number. Now we learned in our notes from our vocabulary that even numbers end with 0, 2, 4, 6, or 8. So if any number ends with those things, the whole number is divisible by 2. So here, 54 ends with a 4, so it is divisible by 2. 30 ends with a 0, so it is divisible by 2. 166 is an even number, so it is divisible by 2. Now, some no's, some non-examples, I have 131. Now, 131 ends with a 1, so it's odd, so it is not divisible by 2. 55 ends with a 5. So it's not divisible by 2. But the only digit that matters in numbers for the rule for 2, the only digit that matters is the ones digit. The ones digit. The ones digit. The ones digit will tell you either yes or it will tell you no. Does anybody have any questions on that? Okay, so now we're going to look at another number that kind of follows the same pattern. The next number we're going to learn, it's the only digit that's going to matter is the ones digit again. So, the next one is the rule for 5. Again, the only thing that matters is the ones digit. It doesn't matter what any of the other numbers are. So you're going to look at the ones digit. If the ones digit is a 5 or a 0, the number is divisible by 5. If the number ends with 0 or the number ends with 5, it's divisible by 5. Now, for example, I have the number 25. 25 ends with a 5. The ones digit is a 5, so yes, it's divisible by 5. 100, the ones digit is a 0, so yes, it's divisible by 5. 1,265 ends with a 5, so it is divisible by 5. Now, if we look at some of our no's, I have 51. Does this number end with a 0 or a 5? No, so the number cannot be divided by 5. I have 36. 36, does it end with a 0 or 5? Then no, it doesn't. So that means I cannot take 36 and divide it by 5 without a remainder. I'll give you a few seconds to catch up in your notes. The next rule. The rule for 10. It follows the same pattern as the rule for 2 and the rule for 5. The only digit that I'm looking at to determine if it's divisible by that number is the ones digit again. Okay, the ones digit again. Now it says if the ones digit is a 0, it is divisible by 10. If the ones digit is a 0, it is divisible by 10. So when you look at the examples, 200, the ones digit in 200 is a 0. So the entire number is divisible by 10. So I can divide it by 10 without a remainder. 640 ends with a 0. So the number is divisible by 10. 3,260 ends with a 0. So the entire number is divisible by 10. Now on the notes column, you really can't see it, but any number that ends with anything else would be a no, right? You can put the number 91. 91 ends with a 1, so it's a no. You could write 6,425. It ends with a 5, so it's a no for 10, right? 640 ends with a 0, so that would be a yes, correct? Now, get out your whiteboards quickly and quietly. Practice a few of these before we go on.
If we're still in Africa, can we do things like multiplication with decimal?
You might need your notes out to refer back to the rules. All right, so here we go, you guys. Using your notes for the rules, if you need help with them, this is what I want you to do on your whiteboard. First of all, on the right side, I would like you to write 2, 5, 10. Okay. Now, you can put a colon. On the right side. 2, 5, 10. And then write a colon. And all I want you guys is a yes or a no. That's it. Now I'm going to put a number up here, and you are going to determine, is the number I put up on the board divisible by 2? Is it divisible by 5 or 10? You're either going to put a yes or a no by each of the numbers. So here's the first one. We'll do 44. Now the rule for all three of them says what is the only place value that matters? The ones place value. So everybody, if you would please underline the ones place value in the number 44. Now the rule for 2 states that the ones digit has to be what?
2, 4, 6, 8.
Or 0, right? Is this a 2, 4, 6, 8, or 0?
Yes.
If your answer is yes, then this would be a yes on 2. Now the rule for 5 states that the ones digit has to be a what?
5.
Or
10. 0.
you can't have a 10 in the ones digit, right? Read the rule. It's in your notes. The rule for 5 states that if the ones digit is a 5 or
0,
then it's a yes. Is this a 5 or a 0? No. So the answer here for 5 is no. Now if the ones digit for 10 the rule states that it has to be a what? A 0. Is this a 0?
No.
So the answer is no.
Yes,
So
no,
it's a
no.
yes on 2, a no, and a no.
Okay.
So I know that 44 can be divided by what number?
2.
2. Okay, erase boards.
I did it.
Okay, here's your next one. 135. No, I left 2, 5, 10 up there. 135. What is the only place value that matters, you guys? The ones place value. So everybody please would underline the ones digit. Box it is fine too. The rule for 2 states that the ones digit has to be what? 2, 4, 6, 8, 0. Is this a 2, 4, 6, 8, or 0? So the answer for 2 is no. It's not divisible by 2. The rule for 5 states it has to be what?
5 or 0.
5 or 0. Is this a 5 or 0?
Yes.
So it's a yes.
Yes.
The rule for 10 states what?
Yes.
It can only be a 0, right? Is this a 0?
No.
So the answer is no.
No, yes, no. No.
So what number can I divide 135 by without a remainder?
5.
The number 5. Okay, this is what I want you to do. Pay very close attention. I'm going to put a number on the board. You're going to do your work, either yeses or nos, for 2, 5, 10. When you are finished, and then Alexis, you can sit here so you can work with Edward. When you finished, you're going to compare answers with your partner. If you have something different, you need to talk about why. Why did you put this as a yes when I have a no, and figure out who's wrong? So for the groups with 5, it's going to be you 3 will be a group, and you 3 will be a group. Okay? All right. Questions, anybody? No, just with partners. Yeah, here we go. Here's your first problem. 3,268. Go. 3,268. Please tell me, is it divisible by 2, 5, or 10? Go. Check your partner's answer. Finish. Okay, I'm going to call somebody at random. You're going to stand up, or not. You don't have to stand up. Just tell me yeses or nos, and then make sure I'm going to answer some questions. Here we go. Crystal, is this number divisible by 2? Your name's Crystal? Crystal, is this number divisible by 2? Why?
What?
Why is this number divisible by 2? Because the ones digit is...
Hey, don't tell me.
Beautiful answer. The ones digit is even. The ones digit is an 8. Okay.
Stop lying. I didn't hear it. I heard it. No, I couldn't hear anything either.
Andrew, is this number divisible by 5? Andrew, is the number divisible by 5? Why? Because they're both different numbers. What does that mean? Does the rule for 5 say anything about one being even and one not? The rule for 5 says that the ones digit has to be a what?
A 5 0.
And is 8 a 5 or a 0?
Oh.
So that's your explanation. It's not divisible by 5 because it ends with an 8. Say it. It's not a 5 and it's not a 0 in the ones digit. Very good. All right, so Joshua, is this number divisible by 10? The number that's on the board. What? Because? Zero, right? The one digit has to be a zero. Say that. Perfect. And 8 is not a zero. All right, here we go. Erase your boards. Except for the 2, 5, and 10. Okay, so